What the hell is up, you guys? Today I wanted to talk about how to mod Baldur's Gate 3, specifically how to create your own head preset in the game. What you're looking at here is my very own real-life head inside Baldur's Gate, and I want to show you exactly what tools I use to make it happen as well as the process. Alright, so some prerequisites before we can start creating our own head. Blender, a version of Blender that is relatively new. I use 4.4. You'll want the add-on for Blender, the Norbite Collada exporter in GitHub, and Norbite's Islib from GitHub, and Baldur's Gate 3 Modder's Multitool from GitHub. Now that we've gone ahead and downloaded the tools that we're going to need, let's head on over to Baldur's Gate Wiki modding head models. When you scroll down on this site, you will see every single head available in the character creation menu as well as NPCs. The head I'm going to be modding today is Head 5, an elf male strong head. You can look right here and see a weird name. This is the asset name. And if you look at all of the other heads, they look very similar, except the letter's different. This is very important to remember, and so to make sure you don't jumble anything, I do recommend keeping this site open so that you can tab over and take a peek at what belongs to what. So head on over to wherever you extracted your tools, and you want to open up Baldur's Gate 3 Modder's Multitool. Once you've opened it, hit Configuration. The Baldur's Gate 3 exe location will need to go directly towards whichever exe you're using. I'm using Baldur's Gate 3 DX11. The Games Documents folder location will have to go towards your App Data Local Larian Studios Baldur's Gate 3 location. Once you successfully set up your locations, you'll want to hit Generate. Now this will begin to generate all of your game's files as well as the models we'll be needing, aka the head presets. Once all your files are done generating, you can hit Search Index, where an empty pop-up will occur. In the search bar, you'll want to search the asset name for your head. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this name and paste it into the search bar. So now that we've gone ahead and searched up the correct preset, you will have some files appear. In some cases, heads will show up with tons of files. I mean a fuck ton of files. And I'm going to show you exactly which ones you'll need to find. So for our head, what we're going to be looking for the first file is Elf Male Strong Naked Head F Remap GR2. Once you've selected the correct file, head on over to this little folder icon. And it will open the exact location of this file. I recommend just minimizing this really fast because you need one more thing. Your base file. This is the skeleton for your head. So you want to again find your name for your head followed with _base gr2. The little folder icon and the location for your skeleton will be opened. Alright, the next thing I recommend doing is opening your Baldur's Gate 3 data inside your Steam apps. In this folder, you'll want to create a new folder called Assets. This is mine. Inside this folder is where we are going to place a copy of your skeleton and your head. So I recommend just copying this and pasting it inside your assets. Do the same thing with your skeleton. The next thing we're going to want to open is the Islib toolkit we downloaded earlier from GitHub. Once your toolkit opens up, you'll want to make sure you're in the GR2 Tools single file tab. Your input file path and your output file path will be blank. What you'll want to do is make sure your input file path is directed towards the head we just exported that we plan on modding, the GR2 file. Your output file path will then be the same exact folder. The only thing you'll want to change is the end. You'll want to change GR2 to day. After setting your directories, you'll want to hit import, which will then import all of your resources. Make sure mirror meshes is ticked off. Now that we have everything imported, let's make sure we export it to a day file. Export. It'll tell you that it was successful. Now that we have our day file, it is time to open Blender. Go ahead and get rid of these fuck-ass cubes. Come on over to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, the down arrow, Install from Disk. Once you get to Install from Disk, you're going to want to navigate to wherever you downloaded your Collada exporter to. Once you've added it to your add-ons, you'll want to find it in the selection below. Make sure you tick your add-on and save. Now time to import our day file. All right, now that we've imported our data file, you can go ahead and hide your armature. And you're probably going, what the fuck is wrong with this thing? Why does it have all these weird ass jagged shapes in it? You didn't do anything wrong. It's the LODs. You can delete those. Some people don't delete these and they keep them and they edit them, but I personally don't do that. Now that you've deleted them, you'll see everything looking a whole lot better. And you're probably going, girl, now I have no fucking ears. What the hell? I need my ears. You can have them. They're just, way down here. For some fucking reason. We're gonna fix this. Select ears. Head on down to your data tab. Add a vertex group. Call it head. Whoa. Head M. You're gonna wanna make sure the H and the M are capitalized. Now let's go to edit mode. Select A to select all the vertices in the ears. Select the new vertex group you've created and assign it. Head back to object mode and they should snap right in place. God. Yeah. Okay. Now that they're back where they should be, they're not attached to what they should be. So let's attach it now. Select your ears. Head over to your Object tab. I'm lying to you. Head on over to your Modifiers tab. Add a modifier, Deform Armature. Object, Armature, Vertex Group, Head M. Alright, our ears are selected already. Let's make our armature visible again. Control select it. Control P, Object Keep Transform. Control A, All Transforms. Now that we've added our ears to our armature, it should move alongside everything else. What I mean by this is if you select your armature, head on over to pose mode. Let's select the head bone and make sure you've selected move. If the ears move with the head, you know you've done everything right. If they don't, you know you fucked around and you found out and you're gonna have to fix it. So what I've gone ahead and done is actually open up my Volno's Texture Toolbox Blender project that I used to get my head into the game. I've imported my day file. All the steps that we did before this have led up to the Blender project moment. Only difference is I opened my old project, but we're still able to continue exactly where we left off. I'm going to link Volno's Texture Toolbox in the description below alongside all the tools that I used to get to this point. I highly recommend it. Basically what it did is give me the opportunity to visualize my project with textures applied so I can get a better idea of what it's going to look like inside the game. Just a little PSA that I forgot to add. Before you start your long sculpting process, do be very, very careful about the eyes. I recommend only sculpting the skin around the eyes very, very lightly, nothing very heavy, and then just slightly moving the eyelashes in sculpt mode at the base of, like the root of the eyelashes to just sit where they need to on the eyelids. Do not move the eyeshadow or the tear line or the actual eyeball itself. Do not move it because it will turn up deformed in the game. When your character blinks, it'll look strange. The eyes might not move in general, just where they need to be. And I think the only way to really get this to work the way you want is if you actually mod the skeleton as well, which I did not do. So if you do mod the eyes, I recommend at least watching a video on how to mod the skeleton as well. So I've already sculpted my head to what I want it to look like. Leon S. Kennedy, imagine that. Anyways, so I've done my sculpting. It's already finished. What I'm going to show you now is the exporting process. So you're going to want to click on, I start from the very bottom of my objects. Click on your object, scroll down to Object tab, scroll down again, LOD level. The LOD distance should already have like a number 7 or number 8. And what you're going to want to do is put it to 0. And you're going to do that for every single one of your objects. Once you've done that, you can select all of these. Control select your armature. Control P, Object Keep Transform. And do it once again. Select your armature. Control A, All Transforms. So what we're doing when we're selecting everything and making sure that it's paired with the armature is, we're making it move correctly in game. We're making sure that everything moves together fluidly. Sometimes if you don't do certain things correctly, maybe your eyes will stay floating above the head while the head moves, or the ears will be down to the floor, a bunch of weird crazy shit. So by selecting everything and making sure we pair it with the armature, we're just making sure that everything is together as one before we export it into the game. So now that we do have everything connected to the armature, select armature, right click, select hierarchy. Time to export. Make sure you hit selected only. That way if you have other objects inside your project, it won't try to select those. I'm going to then export it as the same exact file that we imported, but now as the edited version. So now that we have our exported day file sculpted exactly how we like, we're going to go back to Islib Toolkit, input file. You're going to find it yet again. It was in our assets folder. Elf Male Strong Naked Head F remap. You're going to import this again, the head that we just sculpted. So now that we have our input file path directed towards the head that we just sculpted, we can click import, and you want to make sure again to uncheck mirror meshes if it checks itself, and you'll want your output file path to be set to the head that you now want to be able to import into the game. In order to have it import correctly into the game, we need it to be a GR2 file. So just make sure that the end says GR2 and not day, and hit export. So now that we have our sculpted GR2 head ready to go, you'll want to download Baldur's Gate 3 Toolkit from Steam. It is basically an extension of Baldur's Gate that the creators made for us folk who like to do a little bit of modding, and it's basically going to be the spaghetti and meatballs of this tutorial. Once your Baldur's Gate 3 Toolkit has launched, you're going to want to create a new project. Name it whatever you like. I'm going to name mine Leon Baldur's Gate 3 Elf Male Strong. Create. Once everything's done loading, you're going to get hit with a pop-up that is asking you what scene you want to load. We want to load the character creation scene. So in the search bar, hit CC. Character creation system _CC. This is the one we want. So our scene has loaded in successfully. What you want to do now is head on over to Options, Preferences, Global Settings. Make sure your game Make sure your game data path heads on over to your Baldur's Gate 3 data folder. If you scroll down, you're going to want to have your source asset data path heading on over to your Baldur's Gate 3 data assets folder that we created earlier. And your texture atlas icon path, this needs to point to your Baldur's Gate 3 data folder, just the general data folder. Once that's finished, you can hit save and close. And we can now go to Create and View Resources. It will open the Resource Manager, where you will then see that your mod is highlighted in blue. And the folder below is where we're going to be adding all of our resources. So let's head over to Add Resource, Model. In your Assets folder that we created earlier, you're going to want to make sure that we're searching for GR2 files. Now that we're searching our GR2 files, we're going to import our sculpted head. Name it whatever you like. I recommend naming it something different from the original. Note: a visual importer will pop up of your head with no textures applied. Hit import. Once our head is imported, we can click on it and view it again with no textures applied. That's perfectly normal. Let's add another resource, the skeleton. When you click skeleton, it'll give you another pop-up to search for your GR2 base file, but it will put you in a different assets folder. It's putting you in the assets folder from your actual mod. This is not where we need to be. We need to go back to data and into our assets folder and find our correct base file. Okay. It's gonna say, what the fuck? This is not the file that we pointed you to. Yeah, we fucking know, okay? You're gonna say yes. And you're gonna go to the stupid ass assets folder that it put you in last time, the one that you didn't want, and you're gonna select that one. So we've now imported our base, our skeleton for our head, and we have our head resource here. Once you've clicked on your head resource, you're going to want to extend this. Scroll down to find your slot ID. We're going to assign it to head. Now that we've done that, let's open up our resource. We're going to change a few things in here. We're going to make sure we have the right skeleton assigned. We're going to make sure we have the right animations assigned as well as the skeleton slot. Last but not least, we're going to make sure our materials point to the correct materials inside the game. What we want to do now is click the All folder. In the Search tab, you're going to look for the head that you modded. So we're going to be looking for Elf Male Strong Naked Head F remap. Once we have that, we can pull it up and double click that to open the resource. So now that we have these two laying side by side, the original visual resource and our visual resource, it's going to help us better to make things match. Let's start with materials. Elf Male Naked Head F needs to go here, not engine default. This is when in the search bar you look up Elf Male Naked Head F. So now that we've searched up the correct head, we want to make sure that we get the correct material, meaning let's match the UUID. This one starts with B46E. So let's look for B46E right here. Click that once, head on over to our visual resource. Make sure the material name is selected. Select the arrow. We now have the correct material name and UUID assigned to our head, so that the textures will then apply to the skin. This same material name will also be applied to ears. So let's do that one more time. Make sure that you have the correct material name and UUID selected. Head on over to your ears, hit the arrow. There we go. Now let's do the mouth. What is the name of the mouth? Shared Naked Mouth Interior. Let's look this up. So now that we've looked up shared naked mouth, there are a bunch of different files again, and it's categorized by A, B, and C. Which one of these do we need? We can match our UUID to the correct one. You can also hover over the material name where it will say mouth interior A. So it's one of these A files. Our UUID is 53283. So this is the correct material resource. Head on over to our mouth again. Arrow, we've replaced it correctly. Now go ahead and do that with the rest of your material names that say engine default. Make sure that you find the correct material name alongside the correct UUID and replace them. So now that our material names and our UUIDs match and are correct, we can move on. Click the Animations tab. Ours is empty. What we're going to want to do is select all of these. Control C to copy, Control V to paste into our empty table. In the skeleton slot, you will see that the original visual resource is 1. Make sure that we make ours 1 as well. We can now assign our skeleton. So you can exit the original visual resource, go back down to our folder, click on your skeleton, the one that says base, and click on the arrow that will assign your skeleton. So now that we have our skeleton assigned, our skeleton slot set as well as the animations, and all of our materials are set, you'll want to hit apply, and it's going to say, what the fuck, dude, you're breaking your head. No, you're not breaking your head, you're fine. You can hit yes. Okay. When we click on our head resource, we can now see that it has all of the textures applied. Navigating this fucking viewport is worse than no assist, so good luck, but I recommend doing it so that you can make sure everything is in the right spot. The eye texture is going to the eyes and the skin is going to the skin, all that, you know what I mean? So now that we've done that, let's open up the UUID object editor. Once this is open, let's open our mod. Go down to the character creation tab, add character creation appearance visuals. Hit the down arrow again. Once we selected that, you'll see everything is empty. It's our job to fill in what needs to be filled. So head back to your resource manager, right-click on your head resource, copy GUID to clipboard, go back to UUID Object Editor, and paste our GUID into Visual Resource. Now we're going to open the shared from the projects, find character creation, and open this one's character creation appearance visuals. This will then open every single head in the character creation menu, as well as I think some NPCs, if not all of them. You're going to scroll down until you find the head that you're wanting to replace. We are going to be replacing the male strong head, specifically male strong head F. Once you find it and you select any box, it will highlight the rest. Let's go ahead and copy default skin color, tab back over to our mod, paste it into the default skin color tab. Let's copy the race UUID, paste it into our mod. Now, what I want you to do is head over to body type. Make sure you select the correct gender, body shape, standard or strong, we're doing a strong body. Slot name, make sure it's assigned to head. Display name can be whatever the hell you want. This is what's going to show up inside the game when you go to select the head. Over in the name tab, I recommend naming it with whatever race and gender alongside whatever name you decided to call your head. All right, so we have our UUID, we have our race UUID, the body type and body shape, our slot name, visual resource, display name, default skin, and the name of the file itself. I think that's what this is. These can remain empty. We can just hit save. Now that we've hit save, let's head over to the controller, tab back over to Baldur's Gate 3. So after tabbing back over to the game and you select your correct race, edit appearance, the correct body, you're gonna notice your head isn't there. I promise I didn't fuck you over. What we have to do now is restart the Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit, and there's no actual restarting. What we need to do is close it and reopen it. Now that we've reopened Baldur's Gate 3 toolkit, let's reopen our project. You're gonna wanna select the last scene that you had open. Now we can hit controller, tab back over to Baldur's Gate, select the correct race, edit. So you'll see that your head will actually be there now that we've restarted the toolkit. What I recommend doing is shifting back and forth with your head selected on the body that it's supposed to be on and seeing the facial expressions act out. That way you don't load all the way into the game with your newly created mod and you realize some things are off. So make sure the ears are attached to the head, make sure the eyes aren't floating, and that the blinking looks fine. I recommend going over to your class and playing around with the animations that occur when you select on different classes. Now that we've played with our class and we like the way that the facial animations look, we don't feel like we need to go back to Blender and edit anything. Let's create our character and load into the game. You'll see this weird blue sky happen. Once that does, hit the controller. All right, so we've noticed that the animations are working fine. Everything looks the way that I want. So what we can do now is exit. So now that we've determined that everything looks exactly how we would like, let's go ahead and package our project. Head over to Project, Project settings. From here, you will name it, mark yourself down as the author, write down the description, and give it a cute little thumbnail. Alright, so I've named it, I've put myself down as the author, and I've added a description, and I put my meme picture in because I don't really have a picture of Leon that it's letting me use right now. It's just saying bad image. Everything has to meet the dimensions that it requires. But now that we have everything set, let's go ahead and publish local. Once you've hit save, you can now exit the toolkit. Open up your Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager. Now that we've opened up our mod manager, you're going to want to look over on the right hand side to find the mod that we just made. I have quite a few because I was experimenting earlier, but you should just have the one so it'll be easy to spot. Once you've found your mod, go ahead and drag it over, save order, and load into the game. So I've gone ahead and I've loaded up a save where I am now playing as Halsin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize a mod that lets me change companion appearances, and I'm going to put my head preset that I just made on Halsin. We're going to see how it looks. Alright. Let's get into some conversations with him as Tav and see how they look. Alright. So we know what happens next. We know what happens next, right? That is how we make a head mod for Baldur's Gate 3.